Hey everybody, here to talk a little bit about my GMAT experience and my experience with Target Test Prep. Starting off with my background, I don't come from one of the more traditional MBA kind of backgrounds. I'm not in consulting, that's where I'm trying to go, but I actually work in an accounts receivable role ever since I graduated. I'm a senior manager in the back office of Tech Systems. It's a big IT staffing company. I manage 3 teams who are running with about $50-60 million of receivables for some of the big Fortune 500 companies. Analyze financial data. I do a lot of math on a daily basis. It's a very kind of accounting focused role. There's a lot of, algebraic kind of stuff on the GMAT that isn't necessarily what I've been doing on a daily basis. So kind of going into my GMAT prep, I knew that, the quant section was probably going to be the most challenging section where I needed to really refresh my knowledge. I've always kind of liked math and been fairly okay at it. But there are, as I'm sure a lot of you know, a lot of very specific kind of number property sort of questions on the GMAT that really require very specific pieces of knowledge. So I knew I needed something that would really help a lot with kind of rebuilding the foundation of my knowledge. I went to ASU for my undergrad. My GPA was not exceptional. And I knew that kind of coming into the process of applying for an MBA that I would have to try to set myself apart and demonstrate that, my GPA is not reflective of my actual academic capabilities. And one of the ways that I really wanted to do that was to score very highly on the GMAT. So it was something I took very, very seriously from the start and knew that I really wanted to put a lot of time and energy into. My first official mock I took and got a 615, which I wasn't unhappy with. I was pleasantly surprised. I scored the exact same in verbal on my first official mock, 89, that I scored on my verbal in my final test, also an 89. So I knew verbal wasn't going to be a problem, and I kind of anticipated that going in. That's kind of where I would expect my strengths to be. Quant was a little bit rough. Didn't score very well in quant, and specifically data insights was very bad. Data insights is an interesting section of the test. I would say it's very difficult. In my opinion, it's the hardest section of the test by far. It is uniquely tricky, which is, I think, why it's so difficult. It's not necessarily that the concepts themselves are hard. It's just that the questions are worded and phrased in kind of awkward ways, and there's a lot of gotcha answers in there. So I knew whatever sort of test prep service I was going to use, I really needed to focus mostly on quant data insights. And I decided I didn't need to spend any time on verbal because I thought it would take time away from working on the things that I was really struggling with. My final score after going through Target Test Prep 5 weeks later was a 715. I scored an 85 on quant, which I was very happy with. It's funny that an 85 on quant is only 88th percentile. Just shows you how much people are really nailing the quant section. You can score very, very highly and still be below the 90th percentile on that. But I was still very happy. It's well above the average. And I think I only got 2 questions wrong, which I'm pretty happy with. And the questions were quite difficult when I was getting to the end there. I felt very confident during the quant section because of Target Test Prep and the way it's structured. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. It kind of just felt like doing another practice test. So I felt very confident in that. I did data insights second because I knew I wanted to get the 2 hardest sections out of the way and do verbal last because I was pretty confident with it. So I did data insights second. Data insights was tough. It was tough. I knew I was, being challenged throughout it. I found myself trying to decipher what difficulty level the question was. But I scored an 82, which I'm very happy with. And again, to show you the difference in the quant and data insight sections, my 82 was like a 94th percentile versus my 85 was an 88th percentile in quant. So the data insight section is hard. It's very, very hard, and I think that's shown in the percentiles. But I was very happy with that. I was very happy to be above the 90th percentile there. And honestly, knowing that that was the toughest section for me and that, frankly, I spent the least amount of time on it in my prep, I was very happy with that result. And then verbal, got exactly what I got on the mock. I got an 89. I got two questions wrong, but they were very, very difficult questions, evidently. Otherwise, I don't think I would have scored as highly as I did. But yeah, very, very happy with the result overall. I really wanted to, I took my official test right after they updated the percentiles, and 705 went from a 99th percentile to a 98th percentile. And 705 was originally the score I was shooting for because I really wanted to break into that 99th percentile. So there was a little bit of pressure going into that day knowing, oh no, I need to score higher than a 705 to actually get into that 99th percentile. The last mock I took right before I took the final test, I got a 695, which again was 98th. And I was like, oh cool, I just need to get like one more bump up to get 99th percentile. But I was shocked, pleasantly surprised when that 715 popped up on the screen. I was kind of in disbelief, so I kind of frantically kept clicking through to get done with the test, and almost didn't even remember what I got by the time I had logged off with the proctor. But yeah, I was very happy with the final result, and I don't think I would have gotten nearly that high of a score without Target Test Prep. So I started my GMAT prep in July, the end of July, because I didn't really even know that I wanted to go back to get my MBA until the beginning of July, when I spent some time with some family and friends who have MBAs and who are in consulting in the field I want to get into, and kind of talking with them about how to break into that field. They were all very adamant that like, I got to go get my MBA. So I decided after I got back from that vacation around 4th of July that I wanted to start pursuing that very seriously. So by the end of July, I had decided, I had taken my mock test to see where I was at, and having scored the 615, I decided I really did need some structure to decide where to go from there. But I did pretty much start from scratch. I took a mock test and then decided I need some prep, and then decided to look into reviews. I saw that Target Test Prep had some really, really good reviews, and looking into all of the other options, I didn't want to do the free option. I know there are free ways to really get, the information you need and start to study, but knowing I was on kind of a crunch timeline because I wanted to apply round 2 and was starting in July, I knew that I needed to do something that was a lot more structured and that would provide me the information in a very digestible way so that I could get through it so quickly. I don't think I could have done this in 5 weeks, doing it the free way or doing it with any of the other services. I think Target Test Prep was uniquely beneficial for allowing me to do it so quickly and really get that studying in as quickly as I could. And again, I hadn't taken the GMAT officially. I'd only taken that one mock test. So frankly, I didn't really know what to expect going in before I started using Target Test Prep. As I said, I used Target Test Prep for about 5 weeks, from the end of July to the end of August. And then I took my official Focus Edition test at the beginning of September. After a week of kind of study break, I wasn't studying for the week beforehand to kind of let my brain rest and recover before I really went in hard on that Saturday for the official test. I spent about 20 to 40 hours a week studying with TTP, which was challenging considering I had my full-time job as well. But basically I would go to work, come home, study, go to bed, go to work, come home, study, go to bed. It was my life for that period of time. So I think that's a big part of why I was able to do it so quickly as well, as it truly just was everything. I didn't go out and see friends. I didn't go out and do anything exciting. I didn't, do anything else. Basically, I didn't watch TV. It was just GMAT prep. So talking through why I think TTP was so helpful for me is the mission-based sort of structure that they lay out for you in the study plan. So they have what they call missions, which are basically topics. So algebra topics like linear equations, topics like probability. These are all missions. And essentially the way a mission is structured is you'll read the textbook basically. And as you're reading through the textbook, there's practice problems and challenges to help make sure you're understanding what you're getting or what you're learning. And then you'll take a review quiz right at the end, which is based on all of the things you didn't do well on during the actual studying. So let's say as you're going through the study of probabilities. There's a couple chapters where you didn't seem to get those practice questions right during it. You'll get hit with a quiz at the end based specifically on those to see if you've now retained that information, which is great because you're basically getting this targeted practice the entire time. It is constantly trying to identify where you're struggling the most and give you more problems for those sections to really help hammer those topics home, which for me, incredibly valuable because that's exactly how I needed to spend my time. I needed to focus entirely on the things I was struggling with and not spend so much time on the things that I got. After you do that quiz, there are a bunch of practice tests, just a ton of practice tests after each section, up to like 10 or so. And they're split into easy, medium, and hard. And there is a target accuracy you're trying to hit on each of those. So for easy, you're trying to hit 90%. For medium, you're trying to hit 70%. For hard, you're trying to hit 60%. And the idea is that you're trying to hit that percentage on every single one of those tests, or at least hit that percentage on the average of the tests that you're taking, which is great. For me, as someone who learns really, really well from repetition, it was fantastic to have just the sheer amount of practice problems they had. That's where I pretty much did all my learning. Studying the actual textbook, so to speak, was great for kind of refreshing my memory, but I learned from hammering those practice problems. And there are so many of them at so many different levels. Then they have full explanations, most of which are videos, some of which are not, but they will explain exactly what you got wrong. There's a built-in error tracker, which is fantastic. That was super useful for me because I could go back and say, okay, why did I get this wrong? And I knew for me, the majority of the things I got wrong were careless math errors. And I wouldn't have known that otherwise. And so it became very clear to me that I needed to slow down. And that was like going to be a strategy for me because so many of the questions I got wrong, especially the hard ones, were careless math errors. They weren't because I didn't get it. They were because I was rushing or my written work was not very good. And so there's insights like that in the analytics section of Target Test Prep that you just are so valuable, that really, really, really help you focus on exactly the kind of things you need to study and not waste any time on the things that you know very well. And again, the sheer amount of practice problems and how representative they are of the actual official questions was huge. Like I said, I felt during the quant section of the official test like I was just taking another practice quiz from Target Test Prep. I had done so many custom tests, which is another great feature of Target Test Prep, is you can make a custom test of exactly the sections and problems that you want. You can only do ones you've previously gotten wrong. You can do ones that only took you more than 2 minutes. There's so many ways that you can isolate and focus on exactly the things that are struggles for you. So my whole kind of week going up until the actual official test was just practice tests, custom practice tests of things I had previously gotten wrong, which was great because it helped me really, really focus in on the things I struggled with. Data sufficiency questions, I knew those were a challenge for me. So I made a test that was 40 data sufficiency questions, and I would just do that every day up until the final test. And that's the kind of value that I got out of Target Test Prep that I really feel like it brings to the table. And that's kind of my experience with Target Test Prep. I was super impressed by the analytics. I loved diving in and seeing how my overall accuracy was. I could see that like I had a 90% overall accuracy across the entire course. And I felt that was really good and honestly kind of comparable to the score I got. If you think about like 805 being a perfect score, getting 90% accuracy, that feels kind of like a 715-ish area to me. I think had I had a lot more time with Target Test Prep, if I had started my, journey much earlier, I'm very confident I could have scored even higher because of how well laid out this is. I think if you took 6 months with Target Test Prep and really, really focused on learning every single thing completely thoroughly, getting 100% on every test, like if you just went back and kept doing those practice problems till you scored 100% on all of them, I'm pretty certain you could get 100th percentile score, if not a perfect score on the GMAT. Like there's no reason you couldn't with the amount of resources and the accuracy of these problems and how close they are to the real test. I don't think there's any reason you couldn't. My personal advice to anyone who's starting this is know how much time you have to give this. If you're starting much earlier in the application sort of timeline, that's much better. I would much rather be able to spend 3 months or so on this than the month or so that I had. But I honestly, if you don't go with Target Test Prep, which I think you should, because I think it's the best one out there for GMAT prep, even if you don't, like, do something structured. Make sure you are keeping track of your errors. Make sure you are focusing your time on the things that you're not good at and not wasting time on the things you already know how to do. And again, these are exactly the things that I think Target Test Prep does a really, really good job doing for you and preparing you for, which is why I think it's so good. But yeah, those are my suggestions, is really make sure you're using your time wisely. And the other suggestion I have is acknowledge the fact that pretty much GMAT prep is going to become your life for a period of time. Know that that's going to suck. It's going to be tough, but you will eventually be done. And the weight off your chest when you're done and you've gotten the score you want is incredible. So just keep that in mind. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Keep focusing, keep working hard. There will be a point where you get the score you're looking for and you're done and you don't have to think about it again, which is awesome. But yeah, I am incredibly grateful to Target Test Prep for what they did for me and the way that their stuff is structured, and honestly, how dedicated they are to actually getting people the score they want. I've never seen people more active in all the forums. Like, I see the Target Test Prep like name tag come up so much on like GMAT Club, Reddit, like all these forums. They're everywhere and they're constantly checking in and asking people and giving advice off the clock. And like, there were so many times where I looked at Reddit for like, hey, do you guys feel like these problems are really hard on Target Test Prep? And what do you know? There would be someone from Target Test Prep in the comments saying, yes, here's why, here's the things that I recommend, to, and how to handle these really hard problems. Here's how to utilize the structure of the course. Like, they're everywhere and they care so much about you doing well. It's fantastic. So, but yeah, good luck to you all. I'm praying for you all that you do very, very well and you get exactly the score you're looking for. It is definitely within your reach. And I think Target Test Prep is one of the things that could help you get there. But yeah, good luck and thank you, everyone.